Halloween, that time of year when ghosts, goblins, spooks and spirits thrill, chill, delight and cause fright. What better time of year than to discuss some of the fear surrounding ufology, and in particular, the fear of being abducted by aliens, alien abductor phobia. What is it? How and why does it manifest? And is it more of a rational fear than many might believe?
Join myself and Neil here on Aliens Explored for our Halloween special as we brave this terrifying topic. Now, during this discussion, I refer to an experience I had myself. If you want to go back and listen to the episodes where I refer to that, the links are in the description below. Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a sceptical perspective, whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it? Hello listeners, and welcome to yet another episode of Aliens Explored, your favourite podcast for looking at the mysterious skies, stars, beneath the oceans, smoke-filled backrooms, government departments, and today it's this time it's our Halloween special. I'm one of your hosts, Neil Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Spooky Stu Jackson.
Spooky Stu. Well, I've got to think of something that goes with
Central Utah Paranormal T-shirt, of course.
You are, yeah. I'm wearing
Halloween, or
whereas I'm more sort of smart casual for a job interview I had today. So
right, I was going to ask because your appearance. So our audio listeners will perhaps not appreciate this the same way, but that is a very funky shirt you're wearing.
Thank you. It was a present from my stepdaughter, and one of my favourites. And obviously, autumn is drawing in, and very soon this will be put away for months on end. So wear it while you can. That's before
all the leaves are brown and the sky is grey. And the darker nights are closing in, and it's getting colder. Which begs the question: why have you taken your beard off?
Well, as you know, I worked as Mr. Monopoly up until June this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a break. I left to do a few other things. But now I'm in negotiations to return, at least on a part-time basis. It'll give me... I suspect it will become more and more full-time as we go on. But so I thought, well, I'll shave my beard off because Mr. Monopoly doesn't have a beard. And in fact, my own natural moustache isn't Hasbro approved. I have to go to work and stick on their Hasbro approved false Mr. Monopoly moustache. And actually, my wife didn't notice. And, she was out when I did it, and she came home, didn't say anything. And it was only sort of at bedtime. I said, did you notice I'd shaved my beard? And she said, oh, yeah. I thought there was something different about you, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So, obviously it doesn't make that much of an impact. So, yes, I could be returning. I mean, that's the thing as an actor, isn't it? You grow facial hair when in your downtime, so that people casting directors or producers have a choice. They can say, oh, great, well, can you just have a moustache, or can you have big sideburns or whatever? And actually, what I'm usually told is, get rid of it. Just clean shaven. And so here we are again. I'm clean shaven again.
Yeah, I always leave it till the absolute last minute when I absolutely definitely have to take my beard off. Partly because, as you rightly say, I might go for an audition tomorrow that requires a beard, but mostly because I hate seeing myself without a beard. Yeah.
Well, my headshots are I'm bearded, but of course I could go to any audition. They say, "Oh, you look different." I mean, I know that women have this quite a lot because they'll change their hairstyle and whatever. And you only change your headshots every few years. You're likely to change your hairstyle a bit more often than that. But of course, I then said, "Well, yeah, I've got my headshots with the beard, but I had to shave it off for another job." So it's always that risk.
Yeah, I often have 2 sets of headshots on the go, with beard, without beard, so that
I think I might
send off whichever one is appropriate at the time. Anyway, today's topic.
Yes, it's the Halloween special, so by the time this goes out, the nights really will be drawing in and the leaves will be brown and on the ground.
Yes, and spooks and spirits fill the air and fill us all with terror, and it is a terrifying subject that we are addressing today.
We will be. And who was it who said we have nothing to fear but fear itself?
Oh,
was that Roosevelt or Kennedy? I'm thinking one of those
Sun
two.
Tzu, I thought it was
Sun Tzu. Okay, The Art of War.
Yeah, I think, or was it? No, it was one of the ancient philosophers.
You have nothing to fear but fear itself. I'm sure it was an American president who quoted it. I always think, when I go in someone's office and I see on their bookshelf above their desk Sun Tzu, The Art of War, I just think, what a dick. What a dick. Really, there's this. You're just doing basic middle management, but you think you need to read Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Well,
attack where the enemy is weakest.
Strategizing, at the end of the day. But yeah, seeing business as a battle and as a war, that's not healthy.
Your biggest decision today will be what to put on the supermarket shelves. Sorry? Fear itself.
Fear generally. I'm trying to segue this back into our subject today. Fear generally is a healthy thing. It's something that keeps us safe, keeps us informed of danger, keeps us out of danger. But when it becomes overwhelming or paralyzing, or when that fear is an irrational one, that's when it becomes a problem. And a phobia is, by definition, an irrational fear. So
it's by definition yeah.
Well, I don't see that as an irrational fear, so I don't think it should count as a phobia.
But most things that are called phobias aren't actually irrational fears. I mean, they could be. They're very real to the people who experience them. I mean, when you talk of transphobia or homophobia or Islamophobia, those people are genuinely, they've read all the newspaper reports and they genuinely think this is the thin end of the... I don't think they are actually experiencing fear. Or
no,
they're not actually paralysed by fear.
Those are phrases that are used to... because... calling people bigots is considered less polite, so it's nicer to say you're homophobic than it is to say, you're a big bigot.
Yeah, but anger and hate are products of fear. That's where they come from.
In some cases, but getting back to this specific one, then, alien abductor phobia, which, in case we have listeners out there who can't work it out, it is the fear of alien abduction. There is abductophobia, fear of being abducted. There is alienophobia, just the fear of extraterrestrials. Not to be confused with xenophobia, which is the fear of terrestrial aliens, people from other countries.
Strangers.
Yeah. But yeah, so I would say, and I would argue the case for any form of abductophobia, that's quite a rational fear. I mean, well, I suppose it might be irrational if it's really unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
But it's when it becomes, I suppose, overwhelming, overpowering, when it starts impacting on your day-to-day life.
I mean, phobia is also used. People use it to describe fears of things that can actually hurt them. You know, like poisonous snakes or crocodiles, or that's a reasonable thing to be wary of, to have a fear reaction to stay away from. But to have a, I think most people would be terrified if they were abducted by aliens, wouldn't they? I mean, it's not a phobia.
Exactly, but it's not the fear when it happens, it's the fear of its potential.
That it might happen. That's probably quite irrational, unless that's happened to you before, unless you've experienced that. Now, there was a story in Billboard of a country singer called Casey Musgrave, who said that her biggest fear was alien abduction. She said she has a very irrational fear of alien abductions, which is our definition of phobia. Speaking of, she says, I've seen several UFOs. So there we are. That was about the only thing I could find about this this alien abductor phobia. Couldn't really find anything much else about it.
Well, it's an interesting one, in that when you take other like arachnophobia, for example, most people at some point have seen spiders. It'd be hard to imagine someone having arachnophobia and suffering from arachnophobia, so it affecting them on a day-to-day basis, if they had never seen or come across or heard of a spider. So where does I mean? Well, I suppose we're see. I'm saying this, and I'm already answering my own question, because we're seeing it portrayed through movies and media. We're seeing sort of alien abduction. I mean, I would say I suffer low-level forms of alien abductophobia. It's a fear, and those nights when it's like it's really dark and you can't sleep and your mind starts turning in on itself and starts seeing shapes and shadows in the room, that kind of thing. I feel like I'm narrating a horror story here. We're going to Aliens Explored After Dark. But that kind of that environment, it starts playing on my mind. And if I've had a nightmare involving extraterrestrials or aliens or whatever that may be, because we don't really know, I will be in a panicky state for several hours.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's alienophobia or alien abductophobia.
What else do you think aliens might do to you? I mean, they might just come and beat you up, rob
visit
you.
me. I think their presence holds some. Interestingly, so you remember back along, I had that experience where I felt that I had a visitation. Do you remember we talked about it and talked about it with Ben Stevenson from Central Utah Paranormal? He doesn't sponsor us. If he wants.
Well, he kind of does. He gave you a t-shirt, man. He gave you a t-shirt. It's a nice t-shirt. He gave me a hoodie as well for my birthday. So
he did give you a hoodie for your birthday.
Thumbs up to Ben Stevenson and Central Utah Paranormal, who I happen to plug on this show.
Central Utah Paranormal are our friends. That's definitely the case. So you remember when all that happened. I discussed it. I go to therapy once a week, and that came up, as you would probably imagine. And we were exploring kind of like why it was so unsettling to the extreme levels that it was. And we explored a lot of themes of sort of control or lack of control. Because if these beings are around us and we can't see them, we can't detect them, how can we mitigate against them? How can we protect ourselves? So, yeah, that's the sort of thing I discuss in therapy anyway.
Okay.
No, I don't normally discuss that sort of thing. But
I mean, you're talking about a phobia or something that you can't actually see, but it might be there. It might be stood right behind you now. I mean, studies have been done of people who have experienced alien abductions, and they've looked at aspects like PTSD, which I know you've suffered from, suggestibility and dissociation related to alleged alien abductions. I'm reading from a report in Science Direct, and they compared a total of 19 individuals who'd reported memories of having been abducted by aliens, compared to a control group of 32 participants, and subjected them to a battery of tests to measure PTSD, suggestibility and dissociation. I don't think the results were very the differences were statistically significant only in suggestibility.
okay.
So dissociation might be involved in the clarification of some cases. Explanations alternative to psychosis for these testimonies are proposed. I mean, they talked about things like sleep paralysis, where you think you're awake and actually you're not, and you can't move because apparently when you go to sleep, your body does go into a kind of paralysed state, so that you don't thrash around because you're dreaming about something. Your body's kind of held in check. I've had that experience where I thought I was awake. This is the dullest dream you've ever heard. I was lying in bed, looking at the ceiling, thinking about things, and then my wife nudged me and said, "Turn over, you're snoring." And I said, "But I'm awake." And she said, "No, you're not. You're snoring." So I thought, this is the crappiest dream ever. I'm dreaming that I'm just in bed, awake, looking at the ceiling. That's my it's kind of dreams Keir Starmer was having it, that's dull and as practicable as possible. So yeah, I know the experience of thinking you're awake, or when you doze off in front of a movie and you start adding in weird things yourself, because you're actually you've kind of gone with one of their ideas and taken it into your dream world and developed it there, and then suddenly you wake up again and think, wait a minute, did that just happen? This thing I can't quite put words to, this weird thing. So yeah, there are aspects to do with sleep and dreams and sleep paralysis, PTSD. I found and they talked of recovered memory as well. People who under hypnosis have realised, in inverted commas, that they had been abducted by aliens.
I want to talk about that, but before we do, I just want to sort of stick back on what you were saying there, because I found that really interesting. The association with PTSD, disassociation, and suggestibility. It was those three things, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So I'm comparing this to my own standpoint, my own experience, my own fears. And PTSD, yes, as you rightly identified, I do suffer from PTSD. Have done for 20 years now. And it varies between mild and severe depending on what's going on. But yes, so tick in that box, PTSD. Dissociation, absolutely, that is something I have experienced, not specifically to do with aliens or abductions or anything like that, but certainly with trauma related events. I have a huge amount of dissociation.
And how would that be? How would that manifest itself?
It's so in my case, it manifests in two different ways. I've not noticed a pattern to cause one or the other, but either I simply won't remember events. I mean, I've got like huge chunks of memory just totally missing from my life. So there's that. like, you know, there'll be like a 7-year period, and I can remember maybe 3 things from it. You know, things of that nature. Or the other thing is, I can access the imagery, but it's like watching a movie. It's like it's happened to somebody else. I've got no connection with it whatsoever. So yeah, dissociation. I can certainly relate to that. Suggestibility. Now, my instinctive response is to say I'm not suggestible at all, as I would imagine most people would. But do you know what? The reality. I'm going to open myself up here to our listeners and to. Well, I've opened myself up to you many times, Neil. You're my friend. But yeah, I'm happy to kind of go on public record with this and say that I would say, actually, emotionally, I'm very suggestive because I'm certainly very easily influenced emotionally. People can impact on my emotional state very, very easily.
Okay.
Now, I also think I'm a very pragmatic person. I've had to be. I've had to learn to be a very pragmatic, so I am now an extremely pragmatic person. I'm a very rational person, but that doesn't stop me from getting influenced emotionally. So, would you? So, on the outside of this, would you say that is a sign of suggestibility?
I have to emphasise I'm not an expert. I'm not.
No.
I have no qualifications in that respect, but yeah, I would say it sounds like that. I mean, one thing I thought with suggestibility, you know, when you're watching a movie, maybe a war film or something, and there comes that moment when it's all very, you know, the patriotic music plays and the flag waves and the hero stands up and salutes and there's a tear in his eye. Everyone gets a bit misty-eyed and whatever.
A manly tear, of course.
Yeah, a manly tear. Yeah, a manly tear. But you know, he's remembering all the things he's lost and whatever, and how hard he's fought. And I find myself reacting against that kind of thing because I find they're laying it on a bit too thick. And I honestly think, no, that's a bit much. You can carry me along and get me to a certain emotional state. You know, you can frighten me in a horror film, you can make me laugh in a comedy, but when you try and get me patriotic or nostalgic or whatever, or I have a resistance to it. It triggers something, and I'm thinking, wait, no, what? I can see that you're trying to manipulate. The manipulation is too clumsy, I think, in those cases. It's they really do lay it on thick, and it's a bit. And maybe some of our listeners will agree, some will disagree. But I have found times where I just thought, yeah, do you think you're kidding?
Yes, and well, certainly war films and things like that, I don't tend to react to because I have little basis for there's little I can associate with that. So yeah, that's quite interesting. I was, when you said about, like, you know, we should say we're not experts, and then you went on to say, I was just agreeing with you, and then you went on to say, and we have no qualifications. Well, of course I do. My
yes,
first
you do.
degree
Yes.
was in psychology. However, I want to make it clear, I'm not an expert in this.
But I can refer you on. I'll just write your prescription.
Oh no, I'm not.
Oh no, you can't write prescriptions, can you? You're not a psychologist.
Oh, no.
Isn't that the main difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist? That a psychiatrist can write prescriptions.
It's a different field of study. Psychiatry and psychology are two different things. I know it sounds similar. You're both thinking about, like, the way the brain works, but it is two different schools of thought. And also, to write prescriptions, you have to be a medical doctor. You have to be an MD. Now, a lot of psychiatrists are also medical doctors. So yeah, you can go into being a medical doctor down that route. But I don't have a doctorate. Not yet, anyway. Not yet. I'm not working on it, so I don't know what I'm saying yet. But yeah. So I wonder if it's worth looking at some of the physical responses that people get with alien abductophobia.
Yeah, and what triggers it? What kind of thing sets it off? Is it you just sort of you realise that you're out on a dark night and it's a clear sky above you. You can see the stars. You think, oh, wait a minute, is that one moving? Is it coming towards me?
Triggers. Let's look at triggers first of all, then, because chronologically, that's what would happen. You'd get a trigger, and then you'd get the response. So, triggers. I'm going to sound really glib here. Can be anything. Can be nothing. Can be. It's really hard to understand triggers because they are unique to the person affecting them.
Yeah, that was pretty clear.
Let me think of an example. An example with my PTSD. That can be triggered by some really weird and bizarre things. I can be having a conversation and it might somewhere unconsciously remind me of a conversation I had at another time when I was having a PTSD attack, and that in itself can trigger a PTSD attack.
Wow.
Generally speaking, with because mine was caused by a severe road traffic accident, not happening to me, happening to my partner on her motorbike. So I know I've shared this with you, Neil, just for our listeners, in case you're interested. My partner, we were out on our motorbikes. I was following her, and she got hit by a truck. She survived, but for some time, a period of time when it first happened, didn't think she did. Thought it had killed her outright. That was like the instant reaction. So that left me with PTSD. It left her in a much worse state, I have to say. But yeah, so for me, loud noise at fireworks. I hate fireworks, so we've got that coming up, haven't we? I hate fireworks. They always trigger me. Always. Around bonfire night, which is a time in the UK when we have lots of fireworks to celebrate a man who failed to blow up Parliament.
We think that's what we said. You celebrate what you want. If you want to, I think we like to think we celebrate a man who tried to and failed to blow up Parliament. It's the only uniquely English celebration in our calendar. Everything else we share with the rest of the world. Christmas, Halloween, Easter, whatever. This is only unique. And we don't even get a bloody day off for it. We don't get a holiday for this. What?
What about bank holidays for the coronations and things like that?
Yeah, but they're not regular things. I mean, this one has been a celebration ever since the plot was foiled in 1605. Of course, it was basically an early 17th century terrorism scare, and led to an anti-Catholic purge. One thing I found I was quite surprised at when I worked in the royal palaces. When you talk to people, I would often meet children who'd never heard of Guy Fawkes, didn't know what bonfire night was, and they would always be Catholics.
Right.
Catholics.
So interesting. Yeah. Interesting. I was about to say, bet they've heard a penny for the guy though.
None of that, because they would
again for our American listeners, but just to give context of what I've just said, penny for the guy. We would, on bonfire night, when we celebrate this event, children will build life-size effigies of this man Guy Fawkes, who is the guy who failed to blow up Parliament, and we would then burn those effigies. It's really barbaric, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you'd get some old clothes, stuff them with newspapers. Wearing masks is a thing. It doesn't seem to be so much anymore. We always used to have a mask, a pressed cardboard kind of Guy Fawkes mask. You'd stick one of those on me as well. That would burn quite well. You'd sit him on the bonfire, and we would chant, "Guy, Guy, poke him in the eye, stick him on the bonfire, and there let him die."
I never had that one.
Didn't you? Six-year-old children were sort of dancing around singing that. In Lewes, in West Sussex, I mean, they're quite exclusive. They don't like strangers down there. It all gets a bit Wicker Man down there. But they will burn public figures in effigy. They often burn the Pope in effigy. But they will also burn whatever political figures have displeased them that year in effigy. So,
it's not that uncommon, I guess. But yes, the penny for the guy thing. So once you've got your effigy, you would take, as a child, you would take it round your neighbours' houses, knocking on the door and say, "Penny for the guy."
Yeah, or just on the street. I mean, you basically have it in your cart, on a trolley of some kind. You wheel it around, and basically you're begging for money to go and buy fireworks.
Yes. Anyway, we've gone right off the point.
We've gone right off it. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, that's the trigger for me, is loud noises like fireworks. So triggers in general. It might be, yes, seeing a moving light in the sky could be a trigger for someone with alien abductophobia. It might be watching a movie with grey aliens in it. I'm always incredibly uncomfortable. So movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, seen at the spoiler alert for anyone who's not watched it. You see grey type aliens towards the end. That always freaks me out. The movie of the book Communion, that traumatized me as a kid. I know we've talked about it on one of our very, very early episodes of Aliens Explored, and had to watch it again. Oh, it was difficult. So in fact I talked about the trauma in that episode. That might be a trigger for someone, but it's so subjective, and triggers can be incredibly vicarious. It's really down to the individual.
I mean, as a kid, I would watch Doctor Who. That was probably the earliest kind of horror that I would watch. And I was terrified of the Cybermen in particular. But yeah, that's all right. They're from another planet, but they're just monsters, and they kill you. They come in your room and kill you. So, is it necessarily a fear of alien abduction or an encounter with any other kind of worldly being? I mean, is this the same? Would people in times before we thought about outer space and visitors from other planets, would people have had the same fears about witches and hobgoblins and fairies, that kind of thing?
I'm gonna put a question to you in response. When was it we didn't think about the vast universe and what else might be in it?
I think for a long time people didn't really understand how vast the universe was. They would think of stars as just lights in the sky. I'm thinking it's this fear of aliens is people, creatures from other planets who come to attack us or colonise us. It started in the 20th century. That prior to that, it would have been more folklorish stuff: vampires, werewolves, fairies.
Well, it is modern day folklore, and yes, those exact same things would have been ascribed to other, like you say, witches or fairies. Interesting one. The horseshoe. People say, "Oh yeah, you're putting a horseshoe above the door. That's for luck." Well, no, actually, it's because traditionally people believed that elves and fairies, kind of the same thing back then, were evil spirits that came to do you harm. But they were repelled by iron, and of course, in a little rural village, an old horseshoe is the easiest bit of iron you can get.
Oh, so I remember there was this thing
that comes from.
You had to put it the right way up so that it was a U-shaped. Yeah. If it turned upside down, you've tipped all the luck out. They'd say
all the luck falls out. Yeah. No, that's a more modern day interpretation of it. No, it was there to ward against evil spirits, because evil spirits were repelled by iron. That was what it was there for.
So it's something deep in our psyche, this fear of something coming in from another world, another dimension, some creature emerging and carrying you off. I mean, I suppose certainly in Ireland, there was a great fear of fairy rings. I mean, they would tend to be old Iron Age forts, but they would take the shape of a fairy ring. People believe these to be fairy rings, and if someone had a particularly difficult baby, they could believe that that baby has been replaced, that the fairies have taken away your nice baby and replaced it with this changeling that just screams all day and all night and exhausts you and will grow up to be an evil person. And I think there was some kind of rite you had to do to, I think you had to do something pretty horrendous to the baby to get the fairies to reverse the swap.
Often the way. Well, we're running over time, so we did say we'd talk about the physical response to alien abductor phobia. So it can be, panic attacks are very, very common. Extreme anxiety. And panic attacks involve feelings of unreality, sweating, trembling, shortness of breath, palpitation, so your heart beating extremely fast and in an irregular pattern as well, sensation of butterflies in the stomach, nausea, dizziness, feeling faint, pins and needles even, dry mouth, hyperventilation, all this, it's quite an extreme physical response. Your body essentially goes into fight or flight mode.
Okay, so am I thinking right in thinking it's you've gone into fight or flight mode, but you don't know which way to flee, and you don't know what to fight? That it's a kind of impotent kind of all your defences are triggered, but you don't know, you can't see the threat.
It has no direction to be focused in. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that in itself, that's kind of worse because you know you're reacting to something, but that thing is hidden from you, which is even more terrifying. Yeah.
I'm happy to say I've never experienced that, and I'm not keen to not keen to either.
I have, and indeed we've talked about it on this on this show when I had that experience that night. That's exactly what I was going through. But here's the thing: a lot of people won't come forward because one of the biggest side effects to, particularly, I'm going to say with something like alienophobia or alien abductor phobia, is shame. Fear of being ostracized, of being ridiculed. A lot of people, especially, it's not so bad for us because we are in circles where we are interacting with people who have conversations about otherworldly beings, and they have open conversations, so that's fine. But imagine if somebody just never ever, it's probably easier for you to imagine than for me even, Neil, because you were in that environment where nobody ever talked about that sort of thing. Can you imagine if you had a fear like that? Who would you talk to about it? And people don't, and they suffer in silence with it. And I would say, as we wrap up this episode, listeners, if you suffer from alienophobia, alien abductor phobia, any kind of phobia at all, talk to someone about it. A problem shared is a problem halved, and it gets easier when you talk to people. So don't sit on it. Do go and speak to people, and you can always speak to us. Anything else on alien abductor phobia you want to add, Neil?
I don't think so. Remember, we're not qualified. We're happy to talk to you about it, but
yes, very true. Very
if that's
true.
If that's all you need, someone to
not
talk to who's not going to ridicule you, then yeah, we're the ones. But if you need something more, then yeah.
We're not mental health professionals, but there are some good mental health professionals out there. All credit to the mental health professions as
Absolutely.
well. So if you do want to talk to us, about this, about any stories that we come up with, about any of our subjects or topics, or about anything to do with UFOs or otherworldly beings, then you can do so by sending us an email, aliensexplored@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube by searching Aliens Explored. And of course, if you're one of our Patreon subscribers, you get exclusive access to our Discord server, so you can chat about it there as well. Join us next time where, oh yes, we're going to be talking about a UFO investigator, Paul Bennewitz. So
wow.
Don't miss that
Look forward
one.
to that.
And
Look forward to it.
in the meantime, keep watching out for anything hiding under the bed, as it's Halloween. And of course, keep watching the skies. Take care for now.
Catch you next time. Bye bye. Aliens Explored is a Feagle Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter or Facebook by searching Aliens Explored, or visit us on aliensexplored.com.